Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. This is Tariq Amin, lecturer, Department of English, Cohort, University of Science and Technology, Cohort. A very warm welcome to the course of Communication Skills. This is video number 1 of the lecture number 23. And in this video, we are going to discuss barriers to effective communication. Lecture outlines of today's class include, first of all, we will talk about communication. After that, we will discuss barrier. Then we would move forward to barriers to effective communication. And in today's class, in this video, we will discuss just two types of communication barriers, that are physical barriers and semantic barriers. Now, what is communication? Communication can be defined as the exchange of information, feelings, ideas, and desires, etc. When you exchange your ideas with other, you exchange information with others, can be called as communication. When we communicate with one another, most of the time or some of the time, we face difficulties in exchanging our feelings, ideas, and desire. We face these difficulties just because of some barriers. Now, what are barriers, or what is a barrier? A barrier is actually an obstacle in a place that prevents us from completing certain tasks, that prevents us from communicating with others. So it is an obstacle that prevents us from communicating with others, or that affects our communication process. Now, there are some communication barriers. And what are communication barriers? Communication barriers can be defined as the aspects. Can be defined as the aspects or the conditions that interfere with effective exchange of ideas or thoughts. These are aspects, or these are the conditional conditions. These conditions can be natural, these can be unnatural as well, and these are some aspects, and they interfere with our effective exchange of information. They interfere with effective communication, they does not let our effective communication to happen with people. Now, the major communication barriers are, there are three major communication barriers. The very first one is physical barriers. The second type is semantic barriers, and the third type is psychological barriers. Let's discuss physical barriers or physical barrier. Physical barrier is the environmental. It is the environmental and natural condition that act as a barrier in communication and sending message from sender to receiver. So it is actually environmental, or another word we can say that it is natural condition, and that affects our communication process. It does not let us send and receive messages. The major physical barriers are, the very first one is time. Time is the major physical barrier. Distance is also one of the major physical barriers. And noise. Noise is also another physical barrier. And the last one is space. Space is also a physical barrier. So these are the different physical barriers. These are the environmental barriers, or we can say that these are natural conditions that affects our communication process, that impede our communication process, that influence our communication process, and that create difficulties for us in sending and receiving messages. Physical barrier, the first one is noise. Noise is the disruption found in the environment of the communication. It is disruption that is found in the environment of the communication. For example, you are communicating in your class, you are listening to your teacher. This is a kind of communication. Now, if noise is there, it means that you cannot listen properly to your teacher. You cannot listen properly to your speaker, your teacher. It means that this very physical barrier is creating issues, creating difficulties for you and live in listening to your speaker, listening to your teacher. So that is why it acts as a communication barrier. It does not let the effective communication process to occur. It interrupts it interrupts the communication process and acts as a barrier as it makes the message less accurate. It makes the message less accurate, less productive, and unclear because it makes the message unclear, inaccurate, and productive, less accurate and less productive because you don't listen to your speaker. You can't listen to your speaker. You can't listen properly to your teacher. For example, if you are in your class, if noise is there, you can't listen to your teacher. So this makes the message that has been sent by your teacher less accurate, less productive, and unclear, and it acts as a barrier in this case and interrupts your communication process. So noise is one of the important physical barriers, and it should be removed. You should try your level best to uh, remove this noise. It might even prevent the message from reaching the receiver. If noise is there, you might not be able to even receive the message that has been sent to you by the speaker. For example, if you go somewhere and you want to listen to a speaker in a public, if noise is there, vehicle noise is there and some other natural noise is there, you might not be able to listen to the speaker. You might not be able to receive the messages of the speaker. So it might prevent the message from reaching the receiver. The message of the speaker may not reach you. Another one is time. If a message is not sent in an appropriate time, the message will not have the effect that it should have, as the intention will not be met. So time is also an important physical barrier. If you send a message, for example, to your friend who works in the morning shift and he does not and you send him message at night and you work at the evening shift, and your friend work in the morning shift, so there is a difference in your timing, difference in your duty of time. You send your message to your friend, your co-worker, your colleague. He will receive your message after 8 hours, after 10 hours. So time, this will lead to wastage of time, and this message would not be that effective. It will not be that effective. It would not be able to achieve that effect. This causes barrier in communication. And there is a kind of communication gap between persons working in different shifts. I've just given the example of shift, that there are some companies where different employees work in different shifts. When an employee of morning shift sends a message to an employee who worked in the second shift or in the evening shift, he will receive the message after 5 hours or after 10 hours. So the message would not be that effective, and this will lead to wastage of time as well. Communication gap will occur if the different employee work in different shifts. So the basic issue that is being created is in different shift is due to time difference. Similarly, distance is also one of the physical barriers. Likewise, the geographical distance also affects the message. Like, for example, you send a message from Kohat to your friend who lives in Karachi. So there is lots of geographical distance. Your geographical distance is there. And nowadays technology is there. You have your cell phone, you can talk to him, but sometimes your cell phone does not work. Your computer does not work. So in that case, communication gap occurs. And if your cell phone does not work, your computer does not work, and lots of distance is there, and lots of distance is there, you would not be able to contact your friend, you would not be able to send your message to your friend. So it means that distance is creating difficulties for you in sending your message to your friend, and this is what we call barrier. Face-to-face communication has the least physical communication barrier and are easier as there is more communication channels. If when you communicate to someone face to face, it has least physical communication barrier because there is very we can say that less physical distance, less geographical distance is there between you and your receiver. On the other hand, if you communicate with other person who lives far away from you, so distance can create difficulties for you. Distance can act as a physical barrier for you. Similarly, another example is, for example, you are listening to a speaker in a seminar, and he's in a seminar, and you have taken a seat that is very far away from your speaker. Now there is big difference, large difference between you and the speaker. If a speaker sends a message to you, say a speaker delivers something in front of you, and there is lots of geographical distance between you and the speaker, you would not be able to receive the message of the speaker. Now this is geographical distance. This is geographical distance that creates difficulties for you in listening to the speaker. So distance can act as a physical barrier. On the other hand, if you take a seat near to the speaker, there would be less distance between you and the speaker. There would be less geographical distance between you and the speaker. You would be in a better position to receive to the messages of the speaker, and you would be able to comprehend them. You would be able to understand all the messages. Another physical barrier is space. Now, space is the closed office doors. If the doors of the office are closed, barrier screens can also be found in different offices, in different organizations, and separate areas for people of different status. So we can find people of different status in different organizations. If we take the examples of our caste, we can see that there are people of different status. In our university, there is vice chancellor, and after that we have different deans, and then we have different department heads, and then teachers, and we can see that there are separate areas for these different people of different status. For example, VC has a separate area, department heads have separate areas for them, and deans have separate offices for them. Separate offices means separate areas for them. So these all things, closed office doors and barrier screens, and these separate offices for people of different status, result in creating a barrier to effective communication. So all these things create barriers to effective communication. They impede the effective communication. They affect the communication process. Semantic barriers. Semantic barriers refer to misunderstanding between the sender and receiver arising due to the different meanings of words and other symbols used in the communication. These semantic barriers arise when there is difference between the different meaning of word. These arise due to the different meanings of word and the different symbols that are used in communication. When the words that are used in communication have different meaning, they lead to semantic barriers. They arise barriers in communication. And these barriers are the difference in meaning of the different two words result in misunderstanding between the sender and receiver. And they arise when the information is not in the simple language. They arise when you communicate with anyone, you should use simple language. When communication is in simple language, there would be less chances of misunderstanding between you and your receiver. And if you use bombastic language and difficult words and words that have a different meaning, that have multiple meaning, that have more than one meaning, then there would be misunderstanding between you and your receiver. So you should use simple language in communication. And yes, you should use only those words and symbols that have just one meaning so that they can be easily understood by your speakers. No, sorry, by your listeners, by your receivers. You should use those words and those symbols that have just one meaning, that don't have multiple meaning. These multiple meanings lead to misunderstanding between you and your listeners. Now, types of semantic barrier. The broader types of semantic barriers are, another word, the major types of semantic barriers are denotative barriers. And what are denotative barriers? Denotative barriers. Now, what is denotation? Denotation is the direct meaning of a word, or the dictionary meaning of a word, or the exact meaning of a word. These denotative barriers arise due to the definition or meaning of a word used differently by sender and receiver. If you use a word that is used differently by sender and that is used differently by receiver, it would lead to confusion between you and your listener. So you should use those words that have just one meaning. If you use a word that has been used by differently by your different receiver, then it will lead to confusion. They disagree on the meaning of a word as they are unaware of the other person's meaning. Because they are unaware of the other person's meaning, that is why they might disagree on the meaning of that word. The second type is connotative barriers. The connotative barriers, one is denotative meaning, the other one is connotative meaning. Now, connotative word is from connotation. Connotation means the implied meaning of a word is known as connotative meaning. It is the we can say the contextual meaning or the applied meaning of a word. It is not the dictionary meaning of a word. It is not the direct meaning of a word. Rather, it is the applied meaning of a word. So the barrier that arise due to communicate no, that arise due to communicative connotative meaning are known as connotative barriers. Connotative barriers in communication refers to the difference of meaning according to different situation, context, actions, and feelings. So they refer to the difference of meaning and that are meaning according to different situations, because different words have different meaning in different situations. Different words perform different function and give different meaning in different contexts. Similarly, words give different meaning in different actions, and same is the case with meaning. So when words give contextual meaning, when words give implied meaning in different communication process, in different exchanges of information, they result in confusion between the senders and receiver, and act as a communication barrier in communication process. Now, causes of semantic barriers in communication are homophones, homonyms, and homographs. These are causes of semantic barriers and communication. Now, what are homophones? Homophones are the words with same pronunciation. These are words with same pronunciation but different meaning. They have got same pronunciation but different meaning and different spelling. Their pronunciation is same but they have different meaning and different spelling. For example, words buy, buy, we can see that they have same pronunciation but different spelling and different meaning. They have same pronunciation but different meaning and spelling. This is what we have discussed. Homonyms. Homonyms are the words. They are the words which have the same pronunciation and their spellings are mostly same, but the intended meaning is different. Like, for example, the noun bear and the word bear. We can see that they have same pronunciation and same spelling, but they have different meaning. Homographs are the words that have same spelling, but the pronunciation and meaning are different. Just their spelling is same, but pronunciation and meaning are different. For references, these are the references. Thank you very much for listening to the video. Allah Hafiz.